Would you guys please stand? I want to welcome you guys to committee. So, now you each got to give a 10-minute speech. Okay, are there any members on WebEx?
No members on WebEx, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, I'd like to approve the minutes for January 30th, 31st, February 1, 6, 7, and 8. You have a San Francisco, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have a chance to read the minutes and just have a slight correction for the minutes on Thursday, February 1st. This would have been very difficult to follow, but we, at that meeting, approved or recommended the budget for CURB and for the Kansas Corporation Commission. And the minutes just had said we adopted. I thought it would be clearer if they just say we concur with those recommendations. And I've talked to the secretary, and she has a change for that. So I would move that we approve the minutes for all 6 meetings with those 2 changes to the meeting of Thursday, February 1st.
Okay, we have a motion. You got a second by Senator Pittman. Any discussion? My discussion would be thank you for reading those and getting us straight. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, today we're going to go have final action on SB 457. So I would ask that Nick Myers come forward, Assistant Revisor, and go over this. 487 is authorizing counties to contract with other counties. Oh, this is 911.
57?
I'm looking at this wrong. 457, prohibiting public utilities from exercising eminent domain for siting or replacement of solar facilities. That's the hearing we're going to have. So,
And Mr.
So Nick,
Chair, I'll give you a brief overview from back here, if that's okay.
that would be fine. Thank you.
It won't take very long. So, so committee, Senate Bill 457 amends the law that 66104 that establishes the definition for a public utility. So currently that law prohibits any public utility from exercising eminent domain for the siting or placement of wind turbines. This would also add another provision to prohibit any public utility from exercising eminent domain for the siting or placement of solar facilities. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Committee, you have any questions? Okay, thank you, Nick. What would be the pleasure of the committee on this? Senator Schellenberger.
Scare you that I have my hand up.
No.
I make a motion we pass it favorably.
Okay, I have a motion by Senator Schellenberger that we pass it favorably, and we got a second by Senator Peterson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, committee. Now we'll go to 487, and we're going to have an open hearing on this, authorizing counties to contract with other counties to share 911 public safety answering point services and authorizing distribution of 911 fee monies to counties for such purposes. So at this time, we'll have a bill overview from Nick Myers. Nick, welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, committee. So committee, Senate Bill 487 would amend the Kansas 911 Act. This is the act that is overseen by the 911 Coordinating Council. Essentially, fees are collected on phone bills and prepaid wireless phones purchases and plan purchases to be distributed to these public safety answering points, otherwise known as PSAPs, for the administration of the 911 system in Kansas and the statewide 911 calling system and all the intricacies that go along with that. So what this bill would do is it would, as the chairman said, authorize counties to contract with other counties to consolidate their 911 public safety answering point services, their PSAP services. It would authorize the distribution of 911 fee monies to those counties that consolidate for those services. Currently, the law is a little unclear as to whether distributions are authorized only to the public safety answering points or to the counties. So this would clarify that distributions of 911 fee monies can go to those counties that consolidate. It requires, if as part of that distribution to counties, that the monies that are distributed to those counties be used and reviewed in accordance with the Kansas 911 Act. So there's specific purposes for those monies. It requires that contracting counties maintain their geographic information systems data. And then it also exempts the legislative members of the coordinating council from certain limitations relating to term limits. So that was just a quick overview. So kind of getting into some of the provisions here. First, as I said, it authorizes counties to contract for the consolidation of 911 PSAP services. Again, this is an express authorization that counties can contract for these services with other counties to consolidate their PSAPs. Again, the law is a little unclear as to whether this is authorized, even though there are some counties that currently have consolidated their PSAP services currently. This would require that if there's going to be a consolidation of PSAP services, that it has to be done through a contract or memorandum of agreement between those counties. And then it also requires the 911 Coordinating Council to approve of that contract or memorandum of agreement prior to it taking effect. So after that consolidation process occurs, the bill would authorize the 911 fee monies to be distributed to those counties that consolidate for their PSAP services. So the direct distributions could go to those counties, and the bill would require that if a county is getting direct distribution monies under this law, that the county has to request that the LCPA distribute this, the local collection point administrator, the entity that handles the 911 fees, they have to request from the LCPA to distribute not less than 50% of that county's distribution money to the county where the PSAP is going to be located for those PSAP services. Next, the bill would require monies that are distributed to counties to be used and reviewed in accordance with the Kansas 911 Act. So generally, there's in the law, there's specific purposes that these 911 fee monies can be used for in relation to the provision of 911 services, and this would include those county distributions within those required uses of funds. So it would also grant the 911 Coordinating Council with oversight over those county expenditures, just like it has for PSAP expenditures. And then it also includes the counties within all the provisions relating to misuse of money, and then also that counties can seek pre-approval of their expenditures prior to making an expenditure, so they know from the council whether that expenditure will be authorized or not. Lastly, as I said, the bill requires that counties who do consolidate and contract for PSAP services in another county to maintain and update their GIS data, and it authorizes the council to monitor that GIS data updating process and to require counties to keep that GIS data up to date. And then lastly, committee, the bill or the current law establishes term limits for the voting members of the 911 Coordinating Council. So these voting members are subject to 3-year terms, and it prohibits under current law any member from serving more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms. And the bill would exempt the legislative members that are appointed to the 911 Council from these term limitations to essentially allow the legislative members to serve commensurate with their legislative term of office rather than subject to 3-year terms. And Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this bill would take effect on July 1, 2024 if passed, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, Nick, thank you. Committee, we have any questions for Nick at this point? You did a good job, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, we got proponents oral. We got Senator Mike Peterson, District 28, Kansas Senate's going to be a proponent to this. Senator Peterson, welcome to committee.
It was a long time getting here. This bill basically came out of the post audit. They said that some of the counties and the PSAPs were not doing the consolidations because there was some misclarification, there's some confusion with the statute. So I started a draft and worked with Senator Francisco to try and get a bill going that would help this consolidation. I believe this would help us have some of our counties can't hire people all the time. So like on third shift, if they could actually do part-time consolidation where they could hire and combine and allow them to share services, it would be good. We wanted to make sure that the county commissioners were involved. There'll be testimony after mine that has an proposed amendment to go to governing body like it's used in the act. That way, if there's a city PSAP, it would encompass them too. I believe that we can save a lot of money by letting some of these ones that want to consolidate. It doesn't force anybody to consolidate, but it works well. It's seamless. We've worked hard. Our 911 council is getting us to a premier system, one of the best in the nation. Not without some growing pains getting there, but while we got it, we might as well take advantage of it to help eliminate any future increases in cost. With that, I'd stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. Any questions, committee? Good job. Thank you. Okay, next on the list is Senator Marcy Francisco, District 2, Kansas Senate. Senator Francisco, welcome to committee.
So Chairman Fagg, Vice Chairman Peterson, and fellow Senate Utility Committee members, I'm pleased to be here standing in support of Senate Bill 487, which authorizes counties to share services of 911 public safety answering points. I've had the, luck and the joy of serving on the 911 Council since its inception. And I'm referred in my testimony, just as Senator Peterson did, to the legislative post-audit. So I want to thank him for following up on this and including me in working through some of the questions and wording for implementing that opportunity. And so also, as our revisor pointed out, the bill clearly states that a county may contract with another county for the provision, and we specifically said some or all, recognizing that, again, as Senator Peterson noted, there might be counties that are just having trouble filling dispatch slots on the weekends or evenings. And so it wouldn't have to be necessarily all of the services being transferred. Another addition that we made was the requirement there'll be a contract or memorandum of agreement approved by the council that addresses contingency plans and overflow arrangements. This is because if you're the public service answering point and you have, we have people who can correct me, too many calls coming in, they can be transferred over immediately by the system. So it would be good for other counties to be aware of that happening. So both the counties that are contracting, but then the council would be aware of what other counties those calls might be transferred over to. And this act provides for the distribution of funds. I think that this committee might want to discuss further how those funds should be distributed to counties that no longer have a PSAP within their county. And the 50% is kind of a placeholder. There may be other better ways to do this. But I think it's important because the funds do have specific uses that a county may not have if they have contracted for all of their PSAP services, and because funds provided to counties that qualify for a minimum distribution come from a reduced distribution to more populous counties. So I'm kind of aware that all Kansas PSAPs could benefit from additional funding. I also hope that the committee might consider amending the 911 Act to specifically include maintenance and updates for the Geographic Information System mapping, the GIS mapping, because that's necessary to this process, but we haven't identified it specifically as a allowable expense, but also to specifically disallow expenditures for radio towers. That's one of the ones that's I hear is most often questioned by the PSAPs. Can we use this for construction of a radio tower? So the House is working on a more comprehensive change. I believe that Senate Bill 487 can either stand on its own or provide suggestions to incorporate into that House Bill 2960. I think that there's going to be other suggestions that may be made, and would appreciate the committee's consideration and support. I'd stand for any questions.
Committee, we have any questions? I think you did a good job. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay, next, proponent oral, we have Ed Klump, Legislative Liaison, Kansas Association of Chiefs of Police, Kansas Sheriff's Association, and Kansas Peace Officers Association. Ed, I'm sure you've been here before, and you're welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, committee members. It is a pleasure to be here and talk on this topic. And I do represent the three associations you listed. I won't go through them again. Our association support this bill. We think it's important to clarify this matter of when PSAPs consolidate through contract or agreement, how those funds get redistributed. And we think it'll probably encourage some more people to look at that. This is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. As you know, many of our rural counties are shrinking in population. And we're seeing the same issue in jails. As a matter of fact, we now have 11 counties in Kansas that don't operate a jail. They contract with a neighboring county. And this is kind of the same principle. It's a savings of taxpayers' dollars when we can do that. And we need to make sure we have clarity in how that works. We do have a couple of concerns that we want to talk about in this bill. And I'll just jump right to that. And those are all found on page 8 of the bill in lines 19 through 29, and that's all new language to the statute. So I'll just kind of go down through that. I'm going to skip one that we have on line 19 and come back to that. But I do want to go down to lines 23 to 25, where it has a provision in there about approval, approved by the council, that the contract or agreement has to be approved by the council. When our associations got together and discussed this bill, there was a pretty good debate went on about whether or not that approval was only limited to the contingency plans and overflow arrangements mentioned in the previous sentence. We believe by inference that's the intent, but it didn't seem very clear. We had some of our members who thought it did, some that thought it didn't, and so we want to offer an amendment to kind of clarify that and make sure that's those kind of guardrails are on that agreement. And I'll go over that in just a minute. The second area is down on 25 and 29. And in that one, it's talking about that 50% minimum of the distribution would be transferred. First of all, on line 26, we're going to suggest that the word all right in front of PSAP there gets scratched, because we think there's some instances where there could be a partial transfer of services in which we would want this kind of distribution arrangement also. And then secondly, the biggest one is we think we should strike the 50%, and we should leave that figure up to the two counties or the two cities, whatever the entities are, that let them work out what that arrangement should be, what percent. But they need to decide that among them and direct the coordinating council and how to transfer those funds and in the proper amount. So if you look on the back of my testimony, you'll see I kind of did a rough draft. No revisor magic to this yet, but kind of what we're talking about. So you'll see the first red text there. We scratched the word approve and put reviewed, and then we put it'd be reviewed by the council for content on the contingency plans and overflow arrangements, or that may conflict with the function of the statewide system. We want to make sure that nothing that they're doing will cause a problem with the system itself. And the council is the experts to determine that. And so we want that to be part of that. And then we added any such content must be resolved by the counties and the council. In other words, if they do find a problem in those areas, that has to be resolved between the parties before the agreement can go into effect. And then if you go down to the fourth line from the bottom, we scratch the all, and then we say all PSAP services for the county shall establish in the contract or memorandum of agreement an agreed upon percentage of the distribution for the LCPA to distribute from such county's direct distribution amount to the county which is being contracted with. So those are our proposed amendments on that part. Now, I said I was going to skip line 19, I think it was. Find my place here. Yes, 19. And I want to come back to that one, and it's in the last paragraph of my testimony there. Several places in this bill, and I've got them marked if you want me to recite them, but there's several places in this bill where it talks about a county may contract with another county. 24% of the PSAPs are operated by cities. And we don't want to leave them out of this, even though we don't know of any that's doing this right now or planning on doing it. We want to make this so it works for everybody. And even as this is, you might have a county-run PSAP who wants to work with a city-run PSAP. And so we're going to recommend on that there be some wording change there. So anywhere where it says county where it's appropriate, there's maybe some place where this change isn't appropriate because of the underlying text. But anywhere that talks about the county be replaced with the governing body of the PSAP. So it's clear that it's the elected governing body, city council, city commission, or the county board of commissioners that is operating that PSAP is who we're talking about, are the parties that would be working on that agreement. And we would be glad to work with any of you on getting those amendments put in order for you to bring to the committee at the appropriate time when you're working it. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Ed. Committee, do we have any questions? Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
Ed.
thank you.
Oh, hang on.
Whoop.
Thank you. I'm sorry, and I was trying to look back through some of these places where we had counties. When you were speaking, I was going to ask about that instance of a county perhaps wanting to contract with a city in terms of providing those PSAP services. So we'll probably have to go specifically through this language. But I want to thank you very much for your work in reviewing it and talking with the three associations. I think these comments are all very helpful.
Well, we appreciate the bill coming forward to address this issue.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say thank you to Ed and also to Senator Francisco and Senator Peterson. It's all about working together, and I thought you guys did some good work on this. So thank you. Okay, is there any other proponent? Is there any opponents to this kind of thing? Neutral testimony. Okay, is there any other testimony? So in your package, you're going to see that we got 3 written testimonies from the proponents, all 3 of them. And so you can review that. And we also have a fiscal note in there too, so you can read through that. And at this point, we'll close the hearing. And do we have any other announcements for committee information at this time? We hit the halfway point, and we'll be working this after turnaround. So if not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.